All right, Trish, you ready to go? Let's go. Speaking of, let's go into just kind of the last segment here will be the demonization of conditioning and the stress release response of cortisol. Can we go into that?
Yeah.
All right. Let me. You guys know what steel man is by now? We steel man a lot of arguments on here. Trish, you're familiar with that term so far? Okay. Explain to people what a steel man is real quick, so that then I can actually steel man this argument of cortisol and the negative effects and what people mean when they are demonizing it, so that everyone out there knows that I understand both sides of the argument.
You're going to make a case for the other side of whatever we're trying to say. So if we're trying to say that conditioning, or in this case, conditioning is not going to affect the fat loss, your steel man would be that it would, in this case, an XYZ, and you would give an example.
Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you for clarifying that. So what I'm gonna do is take a steel man. I'm gonna argue for the demonization of conditioning. Although I don't believe it, I want you to understand that I know the other side of the argument of, the stress is bad, stress releases cortisol, and cortisol is the muscle-eating hormone, okay? Here's the steel man argument for this. Cortisol is catabolic, means it breaks down, which is the opposite of anabolic, which means building. The elevation of this hormone is bad, okay, for gains in health because cortisol eats your muscles away. When we do any aerobic exercise for a long period of time that leads to an increased stress response and a catabolic muscle response, because of this prolonged release and elevation of this hormone, what will happen is that we will have a chronic cardio syndrome, which means that we will store fat, and all the work that we're going to be doing will not be productive, highest and best use of time work, because we are, especially when we pair that, by the way, chronic cardio with chronically low calories, we will have this store fat mentality or this store fat physiology as a response to this hormonal dysregulation that comes from overtraining far too easily, and too much cardio is counterproductive to your health and fitness goals. How'd I do?
You did great. It was a lot of words. I think that's the hard part about, like, it honestly just sometimes confuses me even more.
Yeah.
As a human.
Yeah, that's what people say, right? Like, but here's how it's usually said. Here's how, that's if I were to unpack the argument, because I believe that. What I just said, I believe that.
Yeah, you said a lot of terms.
I believe it.
Science. Right?
I believe it. That when you have chronic cardio, that you increase the cortisol response for a prolonged, elevated period of time, that's a bad thing. It's counterproductive. It will promote hormonal dysregulation and promote your body to store fat, essentially. But that's not how it's relayed. When you hear a 30-second clip online, how it's relayed is, cardio's bad. Don't do cardio. Do strength training only. Right? And it's this absolutism that is really tough for me. And so I always go beyond that and look at, okay, why do you have this hardcore my way or the highway absolutism kind of elitism perspective? Why is that? Well, because the middle of the road and the truth is usually not sexy.
Yeah.
Usually doesn't grasp ears the same way.
Yeah, it's not clickbait.
It's not clickbait. So we might not go viral, Trisha.
Yeah.
We might not go viral, and that's okay, because we're concerned with the truth. So here's the take. So I would say that the Steelman version of my argument, I agree with, but there's a more well-rounded take to it. There is an absolute necessary, there's a necessary place in your hormonal regulation for controlled cortisol releases, acute releases of cortisol, voluntary, short-term, acute releases of cortisol that aren't non-voluntary releases of the stress hormone cortisol, and that cortisol is not evil, that acute spikes are necessary for maximizing the adaptation, neuromuscular adaptation, signaling growth, improving the resilience of your muscles, getting stronger, expanding the recovery, especially muscle recovery, and the PNS, the parasympathetic nervous system, it actually depends on these acute cortisol spikes, and you should be putting your body in a position to experience stress.
Well,
Not prolonged stress, acute stress. 45 minutes for a workout.
because your body's going to go through that regardless, too. It's not like you can just remove all forms of like stress just because you don't do conditioning. Like you're still going to experience that. So I think what you're saying is like it's conditioning your body literally to understand how to, I guess, make use of that, and then also the benefits of strength training that you get on top of what you get from conditioning.
Same thing with cold plunging and heat response. Any stress, like this word stress is getting such a negative connotation to it. And when you hear the word stress, what do you think of automatically? Do you think good or bad?
Bad.
You think bad,
Yeah.
bad. But stress is what helps us grow as human beings when it's voluntary, when it's acute, when it's micro-controlled. When you go into a workout and you're strength training, you're putting stress. Mechanical tension puts stress on your body, and you want to put yourself voluntarily in the way of stress, because through this is what people mean when they say pain is gain, or whatever that cliche terminology is. That's what they mean, is that through stress, you will only be able to come out on the other side and grow. If you take the easy road in life and you never introduce yourself to any stress, one of my favorite kind of personal development speakers, Jim Rohn, will say, if you take the easy road, life becomes hard. If you take the hard road, life becomes easy. And so introduce yourself to stress, people.
Yep.
And demonizing conditioning because it releases stress hormone. Cortisol is a bad belief system to have. What they really mean is don't engage in prolonged cardiovascular exercise, 2 hours on the elliptical. Yeah. You know, if you see a marathon runner that never does strength training, they got the skinny fat. This is what we really mean. And I do agree with the impetus of it, but I think we need to have a more neutral, down the middle discussion where both sides are represented in everyone's argument. Okay.